Hello, my name is Autumn Pippenburg. I'm going to be your host today for The Art of Giving, a guide to nonprofit success. And today we have a special guest, Jim Dower, the co-founder and executive director of Urban Initiatives here in Chicago. Welcome.
Thank you for having me, Autumn. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. So first, can you just start off by telling us a little bit about Urban Initiatives, how you got started with it, and how long it's been around, and your mission, and all that?
Sure. So we are celebrating 20 years. We started many years ago at the old Bird, Jenner, and Schiller schools in the near north side of Chicago.
Okay.
Originally focused as a health and education soccer program. Okay. Today, this year we reached about 50,000 students and really focusing on socio-emotional learning and play-based SEL, how that builds strong young people, builds more caring adults into the lives of young people, and how that helps them be more successful in school, helps them more drive their social capital, and really think about play as a way to build strong communities. And so we're excited to be at this point, and we've evolved a lot over the last 20 years.
Congratulations. 20 years is a big milestone.
It is.
I love that you're getting the kids outside to play. I mean, with all the electronics and things like that today, that can be tough. So good job.
Indeed. It's, screen time is something that a lot of parents should be wary of, and how much young people are spending in those spaces and places, and adults, frankly, because
us too.
It's us too, indeed, and it's just important to make sure that you're finding those times to build those human connections, and using sport and play to do that, we find is a really powerful, effective tool.
Wow. And your role as the executive director, what does that mean?
It means I get to do what everyone wants me and needs me to do to operationalize the mission day in and day out. It's a lot of external relationships, and then when need be, it's supporting different members of our team, et cetera. We started with just a couple of employees, and now we have many, right?
Yeah.
And so my role has certainly evolved over the years, but a lot of it is focused on just external relationship building and making sure that we have the support and resources needed to execute against our mission.
Okay. Well, today's show is about board development and governance. So, you said you have a big team, and I know you have a big team. I've been researching you guys, and I wanted to talk with you today about just board composition and structure and just how that works for a nonprofit. A lot of you out there are wondering, how many people do I put on my board? Who needs to do what? Are there actual, roles assigned by the state? Can I just make up the names of the roles? How does this work? So hopefully you can give us some guidance on that today. And starting off with, when you're looking for board members, when you're recruiting, what types of characteristics are you looking for in a person?
Yeah, great question. And I think so much of that depends on what's your organization's mission and vision, right? Where you're at in the evolution of your organization, and where you want to go. Yeah. And so, I think it may sound fairly obvious, but if you're really focused on animal needs and shelter opportunities, it's not like you're going to go out and recruit a water expert, right? And so I think understanding the skills that you want to have as an organization to best meet the hopes, the needs, the desires of your core constituency, right? In our case, it's youth development, right? In many other nonprofits, it can be environmental focused. It can be focused on animal care and welfare, right? And so really thinking about what are those types of skills and insights that are really important for the organization to do this work, and how do you identify and cultivate those folks, right?
And their passion, it sounds like that really needs to be there. They need to be passionate about your mission.
Yes, for sure. I mean, they have to have the knowledge, they have to have the time, and they certainly have to have the passion. And I think if that's for us, and I think for a lot of successful nonprofits, that's always your first kind of checkbox, if you will. Is that person into the mission? Are they moved by it? And are they moved ultimately to take action and support the work of the organization to execute against said mission, right?
Right.
Because you can find a lot of passionate people in this world, but if they're not passionate to the point of action and advocacy and financial support and giving the three important things, the time, the talent, and the treasure, that can then lead to difficult conversations in the future.
Yeah, which we'll get into.
Sure.
I found when I started my board, I started with a group of friends. It was kind of ad hoc, we were just kind of throwing it together, and as time went on, we realized that some of the positions they were in needed to be moved around. Maybe somebody that was put into marketing needed to be more into fundraising, or just based on their skill sets.
Yep.
And I'd say that also worked for us in the beginning, working with friends. But as we've expanded and grown, we've had to unfortunately change some board members out and bring people on that do have those inherited skill sets. It's not something we have to teach them. It's something that they come to the table with. So I totally agree with that. When you're building the board, do you feel like there's a magic number of people that you need, or are there regulations that are in place for that?
You need, for every board meeting in the state of Illinois, you need to have a quorum, which is 50% plus one. And so you have to make sure that when you build your board, they're going to be attending, right? So then you can have your annual meetings. The number, it really depends on how big is your mission, how big is your budget. I think 20 years ago when we started, our board was probably 12, maybe even 8 in the beginning, and now it's 23, I think, currently, and it has gone all the way up to I think 28 at one time. So it ebbs and flows. I think starting small is really the highest and best use of, if you're a founder or if you're a new executive director, the highest and best use of your time. And it also allows you to be really thoughtful about building that board culture, because if you're not being intentional about building the board culture, you're not going to be, growing and fostering and having a board flourish in the way that you want. If you just say, hey, let's all get together and have meetings 3 times or 4 times a year, you're going to find that you're not effectively moving the mission forward had you put real time in bringing the people together along and getting them to connect and getting them to really, as you said, feel the passion for the work.
Yeah. How would you, suggest building culture with your board?
There's all sorts of ways to do it. I think, first and foremost, it is in service to the mission, right? So, depending, again, on what your program operations look like, for us, we want folks to come out to our annual Community Play Cup. It's when we have thousands of kids playing recess games and soccer and just a day of sport, play, and friendship. And so we want our board members present in that day,
absolutely,
engaging in that day and really feeling the fun, right? And so thinking about where are those opportunities? Is it, if you're a community garden, are they coming out and really putting that sweat equity into that afternoon or that series of events? If it is, something focused on, environment, the Friends of the Chicago River, they always do the big river cleanups every year, right? And that's a big mobilization for their board and their board networks to really be connected to the mission.
Yeah, no, I can't agree more. We do mural installations, as you know, and we always have our board out there painting with us. It really, connects them to the mission, to the kids. They get to see the responses, and it just, I feel like it gives them more motivation. So I couldn't agree more with that. How do you recruit your board members? I mean, like I said in the beginning, we brought friends on, and then we slowly, had to replace friends with, people with those specific skills. But is there a way that you suggest?
Yeah, I think it's a myriad of ways, right? I don't think there's, especially, in any business, nonprofit, for-profit, I'm not always sure there's best practices, and there's ways that are traditionally executed to achieve a goal, but I don't think there's like a hard and fast rule of how to recruit a board member. I think that, as you mentioned, starting with the passion, right? I think thinking about networks where that passion exists,
That's
right?
a good one.
So If you are big into the animal rescue and safety world, where do people who have those similar values and mindsets find themselves, right?
Yeah.
So I think really connecting with networks who are already demonstrating action or value towards said mission is really important. And then there's lots of companies, right? There's lots of companies across, the U.S., frankly, who are looking to engage their professionals, their young professionals in board membership and board engagement, really looking to help them connect to ways in which they can serve the community. And that's been something that we've certainly engaged in over the last 20 years. And then, I think the last part of it is there are networks out there, right? Either run by foundations or, donor funds where you can elevate your work and attract, again, folks who might be compelled to take action around that mission.
Yeah, very compassionate about it. Yeah. So as you're recruiting, you're obviously recruiting for specific roles and responsibilities within the organization. What would you say are the primary roles and responsibilities that need to be filled in order for the organization to run smoothly?
Yeah, I think that really the organization having a clear strategic plan, right? So, people have asked me to join boards or help them build a board over the years, and I always say, well, what is your 3-year plan, right? And what is your 18-month operational strategy, and what does your next 6 and 12 months look like, really from cash flow, from staff, from numbers of sessions of programming, and having that really clear and defined as the organizational leader or the founder or the program director helps think about the roles that you need from your board, right? And
so strategy first.
So I've always felt that way because people want to understand what they're getting involved in. And if you say, well, we have this great vision to make sure that every X has a Y, right? Okay, cool. What does that look like, right? And so helping the volunteers see that roadmap really helps them engage, and then helps you or your team as the leaders think about how to plug in those different skill sets and needs, right? So, obviously having legal insight is really important. Having, financial insight is really important.
Absolutely.
Having folks who are willing to engage in fundraising is really important. And then having folks who are industry experts on your specific mission is really important, right? And having a really clear plan on how you're going to engage them over, like I said, a 6, 12, 18, 24 month and beyond space helps them see themselves in the roles of, oh, I'll chair your fundraising committee. Oh, I'll chair your programming committee. Oh, I'll chair your governance committee, right? Because they want to know what they're getting into. And I think, as we always say, clarity is kindness. And the more clear you can be on exactly what's happening and when it's happening and why it's happening, the more engaged said volunteers will be.
Okay, that's some good advice. So what happens when a board member isn't fulfilling their fiduciary roles or responsibilities? How do you handle that as the executive director?
I think, so we're, candidly, we're lucky at UI that everybody does that, right?
That's great.
We have 100% giving. It's not about the amount, it's about the actions you take, right? And taking actions that are meaningful and personal to you, right? Which is great. I think, candidly, a lot of folks who, again, not at UI, but in speaking from other boards and hearing other experiences, part of it, people are busy, right?
Yeah.
With family, with their own jobs, with things that just happen in life, because being a nonprofit board member it's an honor, it's a privilege, it's a responsibility, but it's also a fully volunteer role, right? And so I think so much of what happens when people have a hard time doing the fiduciary stuff or doing the time commitment stuff is because life gets in the way.
Absolutely, yeah.
And just, one of the things that's really effective is having really clear roles and expectations before the person joins, check-ins while they're serving as board members, and then saying, hey, look, I notice you haven't been coming to events. I notice since we had our second kid, or since I changed jobs, or since a family member has taken ill, I just haven't had this bandwidth to really give my full self. And that's okay. And so creating those spaces to let people gracefully roll off because of all the things that happen in their world besides being on said nonprofit board is really important. And again, I think having those honest conversations and that clarity up front is what makes that work easy. I think a lot of folks will be engaged in the vision and where we're going and all the great things that we can do, and not always make enough time for the bricks and mortar that it's going to take to get there and the understanding of what that investment means from the individual board member. And again, so clarity is kindness, getting that out up front. And so people can say, hey, look, last year I was able to do $1,000 a year. This year I can't. I'm going to send letters to all my friends asking for $50 each, and I'll get close to 1,000, but I might only get to 700. Is that okay? Oh, that's fine. Okay, great. Right? And it makes people feel connected to the work still, valued, and heard as board members, right? So I think that's a big part of it, is just having that clear, concise, and
from the beginning.
Constant communication from the beginning of understanding what the expectations are.
Right. So you touched on strategic planning a little bit. And we won't go too much into that, but what role does the board play in that? Because you said have that strategic plan, then find your board members. So then now it's their turn to uphold that strategic plan. How do you kind of place people? I mean, obviously you have, your different positions, like your treasurer, your secretary, your executive director, and then all the other positions with the committees and stuff. But from a strategic plan standpoint, how do you place people within that?
Yeah, and I think what's exciting about and helpful when you have that plan designed, you can go to a prospective board members or your current board members and say, hey, here's the plan. Where do you see yourself in this plan? Right? We're going to need $50,000 to do this thing. We're going to need 100 volunteers over the next year to do X, right? We're going to need kibbles and bits to donate a bunch of pet food for this.
Whatever
it is, right? Here's where we're going. Where do you think your skill sets and your passion for this organization are going to best plug in? And that's why having that plan is so powerful.
So you're letting them choose, essentially. You're letting them look at this plan and say, I fit here, and then it's their decision, right? And there should be no quorums with that moving forward because they chose it.
Yeah.
So,
and you can see the roles and responsibilities that one needs to execute, right? So if they're going to raise $50,000, okay, here, are you going to invite this many people to the events? Are you going to sell this many tickets? Are you going to do all these things to execute on this goal over the course of the year? And again, clarity is kindness. Hey, I've only sold 10 tickets.
Right.
I'm not going to be able to meet this goal.
Right.
Okay, well, should we get in some more board members? Like, what are the strategies we can do to support folks in that journey? Because one of my team members, we talk about this a lot, and she would always remind me this. When your board isn't doing what you want, when it's not delivering on goals, when it's not meeting expectations, that starts right here.
Yeah.
And it's very easy to forget that because everyone's so motivated by the mission and, we just want to, house all these, dogs that have been recovered from a hurricane, right? We've just got to house these dogs. But there's so much of it that is involved in terms of just managing your board and a human's ability to help execute against a project, right? And so really thinking about, whether you're the ED or a team of staff, making sure that you all are doing all the things that are needed so that volunteer who's giving their time, talent, and treasure is best set up for that success. and that takes a lot of really intentional time and planning and thought. And oftentimes, people can put that on the board member, and then that's when you get into they're not doing enough. I can't get them to do this. I can't get them to do that. And that's again, we make sure that our spaces and places when we engage with the board, they feel prepared, they feel clear, they're ready to operationalize the goals. And if not, it's nothing that they did. It's something that we missed along the way.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So you're talking a lot about, setting the board up for success, but I've heard a lot that, the board monitors and evaluates the organization's progress. So can you talk a little bit about that and how we kind of flip that script?
Yeah. So I'm unique that I'm a founder. So, I very much got to cultivate and build our board and with, our officer team, we've built this culture over the last, couple decades. Mm-hmm. So I was never hired as an executive director by a board, right? Mm-hmm. And we've always been evidence-based, outcome-driven as an organization. So we've always been focused on, student impact, school quality, school satisfaction, et cetera. And that's the culture that we built. And so when board members join, they see that, mm-hmm. right? And so they're very kind of keyed in from the beginning on how we hold ourselves accountable to the mission and are excited to engage in that process. Mm-hmm. Now, I think, if you were a brand new organization and saying, hey, we want to make sure that these 5 parks in this town are always kept clean, I think, again, working back there and having that plan, what are your, benchmarks for success, right? What are the spaces and places that you're defining that you're going to impact? Mm-hmm. How does your strategy then support that defined impact? How does the dollars and cents and staff or volunteers support and drive that impact? And then sharing that with the board, saying, we've built a lot of dashboards over the years of saying, hey, here, so a board member can quickly look and say, this is what impact looks like. This is what reach looks like. And again, that's why having that really defined strategic plan first, that again, you can tweak, you can change. A good strategic plan is an active strategic plan, right? It's not one that just, you do it and it's just on the shelf and you pull it out 3 years later.
Well, it sounds like this clarity is kindness. Transcends into both sides of the spectrum, right?
Everything.
Like you need your board to be clear and transparent with you, mm-hmm. and providing transparent documentation, numbers or metrics based on that strategy and mm-hmm. mission that you've, accomplished over the course of the time is important to share with the board members as well, so they feel confident. So last question, we're just about out of time. Can you share one of your best practices for building a high-performing nonprofit board?
Sure. I think that having the, I think I'll go back to the clarity is kindness, right? Having that clear plan of what you're asking the person to do, and then having that outline for each board member on how they're going to drive that forward. Is it, I'm going to volunteer this many hours, I'm going to raise this much money, I'm going to attend this many meetings, I'm going to host this many events with my friends to talk about the work, whatever those metrics are, being crystal clear, before the person joins or as the person joins, and then checking in, saying, hey, how do you feel about this? Are we hitting success here? And then just that open honesty and trust around, hey, I'm not going to be able to do this, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I think it is, having that plan in place and then having each individual board member review that and say, I'm signing up to this, I'm going to deliver on that, and we'll touch base to make sure I do.
And checking in. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. Well, thank you so much for joining us
today.
My
pleasure.
I hope that our audience got some good insight from you. I certainly did. We're 6 years young, so I'm still learning a lot as well. So hearing a lot of what you said is resonating with me as well. Real quick before we go, I just wanted to mention that we have some events coming up. September 18th at the Metropolitan Club, we have our pre-gala mixer, which means it's our last event before our big gala. in October. It is at the Stan Mansion on October 12th, and tables are going fast. I think we only have a couple left, so if you're interested in coming, grab your tickets, grab your tables, get all dolled up in tuxedos and gowns, and come have a fun night of fundraising with us. Again, Jim, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And good luck with Urban Initiatives. It sounds like you guys are doing great.
Cheers.
Yeah.